What is going on? How the heck is everyone? Oh, Lena Tucker in the house. Happy Thursday. You guys, the end is in sight. I always say the end is in sight, but I kind of feel like it's the beginning is in sight. For me, with 2 kids, the end is in sight because it's the end of my work week, which means the beginning of full-time kids, which means full-time me going nuts. But I love them. I love them. Hopefully everyone is doing awesome. Joel Gamron here from Homemade. If you are just joining us, welcome to Relish Live. And today, it's all brought to you and presented by the Campbell Soup Company. We are so excited to be able to partner with them and really power today's class. It's going to be amazing. We're making 2 recipes today. 2 recipes that I think are on so many people's menus all the time, year-round, especially now. With brunches happening, Easter around the corner, we're making a gorgeous strata with asparagus and cheddar, a little bit of ham, beautiful, and we're making kind of the spring frittata. Both Campbell's kind of just heighten and kind of just make that much better, which we're going to talk about. But if this is your first time hanging out with us here at Relish, this is exciting. We get to kind of walk you guys through what we do together. So this is all about being interactive. You guys can talk to me in real time. You can do it 2 ways. One is share your video. So if you're comfortable, click your little video guy. I can see you. And that way you can raise your hand and you can ask questions or just chat it up. If that's not cool, if that's not comfortable with you, that's absolutely fine. We have Chef Lindsay, who is in the chat. She is typing away, incredibly knowledgeable, very inspiring, and loved over here. So if you have questions along the way and you don't feel like talking in front of hundreds of people, I get it. Just hit up Lindsay. She'll let you know what to do. We had over 1,200 people sign up for this class, and I get it because these are classics. And we want to show you how to really make them that much better. We want to elevate them, and we're doing that with just a brand that I think we all know and love, which is Campbell Soup Company. And when I think about this and when I see the red and the white, to me it's nostalgia. It's Americana. It's a hug in a can. Let's call it what it is. But what I think a lot of people do is they look at Campbell's as a soup, as like a standalone meal, which is cool. You can have it like that. I think when chefs look at these, we look at them as really smart ways to kind of use it as an ingredient and kind of make your dishes sing, pop, and really kind of have that oomph that a lot of people can't put their finger on. So we're really excited to kind of walk you through that today. Thumbs up if you guys are pumped. I see Jonathan in the house, Elaine, Angie, Alyssa, Carolina, Margaret. PR Banks is jumping around. I love it. Well, let's get started. First step is first. Preheat your oven. 350 degrees. Just get it going. When we talk about a strata versus a frittata, which, by the way, I just realized those rhymed, can someone tell me in the chat, raise your hand, what's the difference? Strata, frittata. Strata, frittata. Who can tell me? Carolina or Carolina? I'm going Carolina.
Just scrambled eggs.
Just scrambled eggs?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like regular scrambled eggs, I think.
Oh, you're saying that's the difference? Close, close. Who else has some ideas? Bread and bread. Strata has bread. Yes. I would say a couple things. Typically, a correct frittata, because I'm going to get on my high horse here for a second. When you make a frittata, it should be done in the pan. When you make a strata, it should be done in the oven. So one's baked, one's on the pan. And then, yeah, strata always has bread to soak up that beautiful custard. Both are savory, both are delicious. And we're going to start with the strata, which I think is like a total crowd favorite. So here we go. For this, you do need a can of cream of mushroom soup. This is crucial. We'll talk about this. We're going to do 5 eggs. We got a little bit of ham. You can use bacon, about 4 ounces. If you don't do either, I would add mushrooms to this with some smoked paprika. It kind of gives the same vibe if you don't do meat. 2 cups of milk, tablespoon of mustard, couple of cups of cheddar cheese. It's spring, so you know we got to bring the asparagus love. And then I've got 4 cups of your favorite stuffing mix. Any stuffing mix will work, or you can just use torn toasted bread. Any questions about substitutes, things like that? Giovanna, I love the hairband. I love it. What you got for today?
Joe, you were muted, so I never heard the difference. What was between the two difference? The fragile.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No problem. Okay, I was too excited. Okay, can you hear me now though, Giovanna?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for calling that out. Okay, big difference. So, strata, bread, baked. Frittata, typically no bread, stovetop. Big difference there. Thanks, Giovanna. All right, you guys.
So there's a question.
Oh, we got a question. Lindsay, bring it.
If you don't have the cream of mushroom,
Yeah.
what can you use as a substitute?
Great question. Already a tough one, but if you don't have Campbell's cream of mushroom soup, what do you use as a substitute? Well, if you don't have it in the kitchen right now, I would say maybe if you have some Liam Perrins, Worcestershire sauce, something like that might work. I will say nothing's going to replace it. The flavor, the comfort, the seasoning. So it's impossible to say, oh, use this instead. I would say omit it, and it's just not going to be as good, because really what the cream of mushroom does is heighten it. So the best I can do, it's hard to kind of say, how do you replace something so iconic? It's tough. All right, step 1, grab a pan. Get it on a 8 out of 10, so medium-high heat. All right, and we're gonna start off with a little bit of ham. Again, if ham is not your jam, you see what I just did there? Ham is not your jam. You can go with so many other things, but I'm just gonna cut this ham into little strips and then cut those strips into little cubes. Really simple. Now for strata, it's like a genius brunch recipe. Like if you have friends coming over, if you've got a bunch of people, I would turn to strata. If it's like a handful of people, you might want to go frittata. There's less leftovers, but either one rock. I just think they're both great for having company. So I've got pretty chunky dice here. Don't worry if they're some are a little bit bigger than others. I've just got some nice smoked ham. Again, anything will work. And we're going to go ahead and just add this into a pan. No need to add any fat to it. No oil, no butter, nothing like that. Just let the pan kind of start to render out the flavor of the ham. Oh, it's already starting to smell really smoky and delicious. Next up is asparagus. And a lot of people ask me, how do I store my asparagus when I come back from the grocery store? So when you get a bunch of asparagus, there's a couple of things you can do. One is get a wet paper towel, wrap it around it like a mummy, put it in a bag, poke holes in the bag. It will stay really crisp and nice for about a week and a half. Another is to treat them like flowers and put the bottom of the stems in a little bit of water like this. And they'll actually continue to grow if you put them in your windowsill, which is pretty cool. Even after you cut them, they're like an octopus. They'll grow their arm back. So really nice way to keep them hydrated and crisp. Totally up to you. We've got a handful of asparagus. If you don't do asparagus, go broccoli, go Brussels sprouts, go sweet peas. So many options in the spring. All right. And what I'm going to do, when you look at asparagus, this is really important. There's kind of 2 colors of green. You have this really dark green happening here, and this super light green happening over here. So you kind of want to get rid of the light green. So I grab my knife, and I take one asparagus and I snap it. And wherever that asparagus snaps, that's where you kind of want to cut the rest of them. So see, I'm kind of laying them back in line. I'm going to use that as a measuring stick and cut the rest of them. Now, don't throw these away, but these get a little woodsy. They get caught in your teeth. They're hard to chew. So with these, you can put them in soups and blend them up. Also really good with Campbell's cream of mushroom. But today, they're going to go into the freezer for another dish. And for the asparagus itself, I'm just going to literally kind of like the ham, chunk up these puppies. And I'm just going to add them right into the pan with the ham. And we're just lightly sauteing these. It's not even in the recipe to do this. You could just toss it into the mixture. But I find by pre-cooking the asparagus a little bit, getting a little bit of crisp on that ham, it really wakes the dish up. PR Banks, talk to me, buddy.
Oh, I asked a question in the chat.
Yeah.
And I didn't interrupt you, but I will. So I have a brunch on Saturday. Can I make these today and either freeze them or will they still be good?
Totally, yes.
Okay.
PR, this is why this is so great for a crew. A lot of people, maybe you're making something for church or you have something for a big happening this weekend. You can make this up to 3 days ahead of time. Cook it in the oven, cool it, plastic wrap. 3 days later, it's still going to be great.
Oh, I don't have to freeze it?
No, you don't have to. If you freeze it, it'll stay good for 3 months.
Okay, thank you, sweetheart.
Of course, thank you. All right, now to this ham and asparagus situation, which, by the way, is just about where I want it. I don't want to overcook these, right? Just like waking them up, just getting everything kind of out. In fact, I might just wait 30 seconds because I'm literally, you should just kind of smell it, and you can see I'm getting just a slight color on that ham. But the asparagus, you're just barely cooking through because it's going to cook in the oven. But what I'm going to do is, I want you guys to go find a baking dish. I've got this beautiful green one, right? And you can add a little bit of oil to this just so it doesn't stick. I'm adding like a teaspoon and just rubbing that in to all the sides. But at this point, you can just dump your mixture of ham and asparagus right in. Keep the pan around. You can turn it off for right now, but just dump it so it looks like this. On top of that, add your 4 cups of stuffing. And you can just use a spoon and just start to kind of toss those things together. Really simple. Now, this already smells incredible. I love getting some stuffing for this because it comes seasoned. So I can smell the herbs. Usually there's a little thyme, a little rosemary. It just saves you a little shortcut, but that already looks beautiful. I mean, come on. Can we talk about this for a sec? Look at that. I'd already served that. I just eat that with a spoon. Lindsay goes, yum. So that's hanging out. We've got our bread, our ham, our asparagus. Now we need the base. This is what makes a beautiful strata. A strata is this kind of egg custard mixture that should have tons of flavor, and that is why we are turning to Campbell soup. You know, cream of mushroom, it's way more, like I said, than a soup. It's an ingredient, right? It brings that pop of acid. People don't know this, but there are no stabilizers in here. There's no artificial ingredients, nothing like that. And the cream is actually farm fresh. So people, you know, have a different kind of take on where you use Campbell's, and maybe you use it for your green bean casserole, but you can sneak it into so many different things, which we're going to talk about. But to start this custard, it couldn't be easier. We've got really 4 ingredients. One, we've got some mustard. I've got some Dijon mustard. So I want a tablespoon of Dijon mustard in a big bowl. That's going to add a little sharpness, a little spice. I've got 5 eggs. If you've ever cooked with me before, I never, when I have more than 2 eggs, I never just crack them right into the bowl. That way, if I have a bad egg, it doesn't just ruin the mustard mixture. So I always crack it into like a little cup. And by the way, this is the fanciest cup in the world. I feel like I'm going to have tea with the queen. This is such a fancy cup. All right, so crack on a flat surface, in the cup we go, and then into the bowl. So this way, again, if the egg sucks, which happens all the time, you catch it before it ruins the whole mixture. Why waste perfectly good milk, mustard, and cream of mushroom soup with a bad egg? That's all I got to say. How we doing? Any questions in the chat, Lindsay, I need to be aware of?
Yeah. So right now, folks are a little confused. Is the stuffing done? Are you just making the wedge after the dry?
Yes. Sorry to confuse. So the stuffing and kind of the actual dry part of the strata is done. So again, stuffing, we've got our ham, and we've got our asparagus. They're hanging out. Okay, we're going to combine these two. So this is the dry mixture, and now we're working on the wet. Good questions. All right, so 5 eggs in, 2 cups of milk. And this is where it gets a little nutty in all the good ways. But 1 can of Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. So you just pop open the lid. And, you know, do a lot of people here, do you guys know what a roux is or no? Who can raise their hand? What is a roux? Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Okay, so a roux is, it's a flour and butter mixture or fat mixture that really thickens sauces and soups and things like that. And when you don't have time to make a roux, which a lot of us don't, and also a roux is not very flavorful, turning to cream of mushroom is actually a genius move. It will thicken things for you. I've made Alfredos with cream of mushroom. I've made risottos with cream of mushroom, stuffings with cream of mushroom. So again, just don't think of it as just a soup. It's really way more than that. And if you want inspiration, you can always head to the Campbell's website. They actually have an incredible amount of recipes, unbelievable amount of recipes. So go to Campbell's website, check it out. You can kind of get more inspiration on how to use your cream of mushroom. But in our strata like this today, I'm just going to whip it in. And it's going to be one of those rich flavor bombs, umami bombs, that no one will be able to put their finger on except for me. It's like a secret. All right. I know we had a question. Are we good? Went away? Okay. Sherry, we're good? Cool. So you kind of whisk it up, and already you can see this is turning custardy, and that is because of the Campbell's cream of mushroom. It gives you this velvety kind of finish, almost like a pancake batter in all the best ways. So I take my beautiful little casserole here, and I just pour the wet over the dry. Don't do it too fast. Let it kind of soak in for a sec. But this savory custard, man, you can see little bits of mushroom. Again, the farm fresh cream. Some of that gorgeous Dijon. And then I just take a spoon and just almost fluff the bread and the asparagus mixture just to allow our custard to kind of fall to the bottom. Man, dude, this already looks so killer. Look at that. So good for a group. I love it. No need to kind of like be aggressive and press it down. Nothing like that. Just kind of make sure the custard, almost like Plinko, falls in between the lines. Everyone know Plinko? Is that a weird reference from Price is Right? It's got to just kind of fall down in between the bread. And it's what really makes the whole thing happen. Debbie, looks like you've got a question.
Hey there.
Hey.
In step 1 in the instructions, it says you're supposed to add the cheese to the first step.
You can. You absolutely can add the cheese to the bread and to all that stuff. I actually like to add the cheese on top. I was just going to tell you. So you can do either one, but I like that crusty cheese on top. So up to you. Totally your call. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. So speaking of which, thank you, Debbie. Here comes 2 cups of cheddar cheese. It's not light on the cheese, people. But that's why this is a go-to, man. It's so good. And you think, okay, what's really going to set it off is the ham or the cheese. It's not. It's really the Campbell's. It's the soup. That's what really paints the picture and makes the whole thing happen. This looks to die for. No need to add more olive oil to this. Nothing like that. Just carefully pick up the whole casserole itself. And this thing is heavy. And again, this would probably feed like 10 people. And pop this whole thing into your oven. At this point, we've been preheating 350 degrees. And we're going to let that go for about 30 to 40 minutes. Basically until it stops jiggling. All right. How we doing with that? I know there was a couple of steps in there. You know, again, you don't need to pre-cook the ham or the asparagus ahead of time, but it does make a little bit of a difference. Michael.
Sir.
Sir.
As a member of the tribe, Pascal coming up. Could you use matzah? And if you did, what spices would you add to make up for not using the seasoned bread?
Wow. What a great idea. Yes, Passover is coming up. For those of you guys who don't know, we don't eat leavened breads for that week. So matzah is like a cracker, basically. And so absolutely, you could, I would soak the matzah like matzah brie, Michael, ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right? Get it soft so it was almost like bread and it can soak in the custard. And then things like thyme, sumac, rosemary, oregano, all those dried spices would be great in this. And you'd be happy. Dried garlic would be stunning as well.
Fine.
Beth, talk to me.
I don't eat ham.
Yeah.
And I just throw a bunch of different vegetables in.
Yeah.
And if I'm just doing a bunch of different vegetables, do I have to saute them first, or should I steam them first, or should I just throw them in and let them cook in the oven?
Yeah. It depends on the vegetable, right? If you're going to do carrots, they'd be hard if you just cooked them in the oven.
Like onions, broccoli, asparagus.
Yeah. Yeah, you could put them right in without cooking them. I do think cooking them just gives them a little bit more of like an edge. So even just in a little olive oil for like 2 minutes, put your broccoli, your peas, your asparagus in there. And then my secret is add a little bit of smoked paprika because the ham is smoky. So the smoked paprika, that spice just makes it taste like the campfire. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm using challah instead of stuffing it. So I don't have all the herbs you're talking about. Should I be adding more seasoning?
No, I think that's it's fine with just the challah. If you have some dried herbs like dried rosemary and thyme, maybe go with a couple tablespoons of that. But honestly, it will be beautiful just as is.
Great.
Yeah, of course. Good questions, you guys. All right. Next up. So Strata is happening. It's baking, right? I can already smell the cream of mushroom, no joke. Right when it hits the heat, it all comes kind of rushing back to you. This next dish, very near and dear to my heart, is a frittata. The reason why frittata matters to me so much is because it was kind of the dish I had to cook for my father-in-law to win over my wife. He's like super Italian, and a frittata is like he's a winemaker. It's very important to him, a frittata. So I made a frittata the way I was taught how to make a frittata, and he poo-pooed it very quickly. And he showed me his method, and I'm like, okay. This guy's just trying to one-up me, but his method's incredible. So I'm taking this recipe from Campbell's. I'm going to flip it on its head, no pun intended, because there's just one technique where we're going to flip it instead of bake it. So let's talk about this frittata. For this frittata, we've got 4 vegetables, all of which can be absolutely swapped out for other things. But I've got a zucchini, super in season right now. If you're not eating summer squash zucchini, get on that train. I've got a gorgeous sweet onion, handful of mushrooms, some spring onions, and that is going to be kind of the first part of this before we dive into the actual egg and custard itself. So all I want you to do here is same pan that you got everything ready, the asparagus and ham with, go ahead, turn that on, medium-high heat. Cool. Step 1, onion. We're just going to kind of sweat it out. No big deal here. So I'm going to literally just take the onion, cut off the bottom, cut off the top, cut the whole thing in half. Give it one good peel. All right, I just take out one layer there. This is another thing that a lot of people throw away, but I love to keep is the onion peels. You can freeze these, use them in your chicken stock, or even dehydrate them. Blitz them with a little bit of salt, and you can have your own onion salt. Pretty cool. All right, and then with the onion, I'm just going to cut kind of chunky slices, and then cut those into big dice, just like this. And I love this recipe. Again, I mean, if you're into recipes using Campbell's products, which again are just such smart ways to cook, because it just infuses a whole level of flavor that, frankly, people aren't expecting, then you should really head to campbells.com. It's an amazing, amazing recipe library. I've got a tablespoon of butter I'm adding in. You can add a little bit of olive oil to that too if you want it. Totally up to you. And then all my onions go right in. And I'm on about a 8 out of 10, so like a medium-high heat. Onions in the pool. They're not like smoking, right? They're just kind of sweating. I'm going to give a little salt pinch over the top. You don't need much because for this recipe, we're actually using broccoli and cheese soup. This is my childhood. We'll talk about that. But this has so much good seasoning in it already. You can look on the back again, farm fresh dairy. Nothing in there, no preservatives, nothing that you need to worry about. So really, really smart flavor enhancer. But it's going to do mainly most of the seasoning for us. Those onions are already kind of starting to do their thing. Then I've got this zouk. I cut this puppy in half. The recipe doesn't say to do this. I like to do this. This is one of those things my father-in-law taught me. Scoop out the middle. Scoop out the middle. It's a little wet, and it just kind of dries out your frittata. So I scoop out, you can use these, the actual middle for things like muffins and zucchini breads and things like that, but I just like kind of these empty boats. And then I just slice these into little half moons. And they just, because there's not as much water in them, they really saute so much better. Isn't that a great trick? Great for stir fries too. Just because you don't want that water in whatever you're cooking. This looks great. So 1 zucchini, and I'm going to go ahead and add that right into my onion mixture. We're going to start to kind of bring that down. Now, what's really cool about using the broccoli and cheddar soup is if all you have is cream of mushroom, you could absolutely replace it in this recipe and it would still kick butt. I mean, it would still bring exactly what you're looking for. Obviously, the broccoli cheddar, it has real cheese in it, beautiful tender broccoli. So it's got a little bit more veg, a little bit more chutzpah for this recipe, but it's your call. Next, I got my 4 mushrooms. A lot of people slice mushrooms. I'm not a slicer of mushrooms. I'm a crumbler of mushrooms. So I take my mushroom over the top and I just break it like that. I like the different texture. Stem and all. Everyone goes in. You can slice it, but it always just looks store-bought to me. And this is homemade. Come on. Just kind of crumble that mushroom up. That looks great. All right. Those are just starting to kind of break down. And while they do, let's take some questions. How we doing out there? Everyone kind of tracking? Not too hard of a recipe. This is an easy one, but there's some steps to it. So please let me know if you have any questions. We're good? Thumbs up, everyone. I'm looking over at Mary Howie, Joyce. Alan looks good. Midori, you okay over there in Japan? Debbie's good. Midori always, every day we see her, she comes from Japan. We very much appreciate her showing up. Love it, Midori. All right. So we're just sauteing these veg, cooking them down. We kind of want to get the water out of them. All right? So give them like another couple of minutes. And while that's happening, it's spring. Let's use some spring onions. Kind of like asparagus, spring onions have 2 colors, the dark and the light side of it. I like to cut it right in between. The dark one is really, really good for eating fresh, like in salads, as a garnish. So we'll save this for that. The bottom is a little chewier, so I like to saute this. So we're going to slice the bottoms. Again, I've got 3 of them. Nice and thin of the spring onions, also known as scallions. And if you don't have these, it's totally cool, but they do just add a little brightness to this dish. I always leave the little hairy bits on because it helps me hold them when I chop them. Good little tip. Awesome. I'd say that's about a 1/4 cup of scallions. Just the bottoms. And those are going to go right in the beginning of my frittata. You can see everything's starting to caramelize, cook down. smell absolutely incredible. This looks great. And I'm going to just give a quick clean here. And now we're going to get started on this custard, which requires a lot more eggs than our strata. So I've got 9 eggs. Count them, 9 eggs. So you know I'm going to absolutely use my same trick. I'm not going to crack the egg into the bowl. I'm going to crack the egg into a little jar or something and then into the bowl as an insurance policy. So again, always crack on a flat surface and then right in. How are we all doing out there? Lindsay, any questions? Are straight onions the same? Oh yeah. Are spring onions the same as scallions? Yes, and green onions. Yes, they're all the same thing. And if you let a green onion grow, right, in the ground like this is the top of it, it becomes an onion. So these are just young onions, right? They happen in the spring when onions are really done kind of late summer. So it's like catching the onions before they grow all the way, and that's why they're so sweet and tender and delicious. Do you know that, Lindsay? Yeah? My recipe said 9. Does it really say 6? They said, why are you using 9 eggs when the recipe said 6? All right, I'm going 6 then. My recipe said 9.
It does say 9.
Oh, okay. Did someone flipping their 6s upside down? I don't know what's happening over here. We'll go with 6. I'm fine with 6. All right, real quick, I want to head back to the veg here. Look how cooked down they are. It kind of, this started up here, much higher. But now all the water is really left, and it's soft and brown and caramelized, and it looks really delicious. So you can turn off the heat at this point. Or actually, I'm sorry, turn down the heat. Go to like a 3. Something really, really low. And to these eggs, we are going Campbell's broccoli cheddar soup. Again, I say soup at the end of broccoli and cheese, but the reality is think of this as an ingredient, not as a soup. I've done too many casseroles. I've done too many sauces. I've done too many dishes where you can incorporate this, pastas, marinades, things like that, that it brings that kind of heightened acidity of cheese. Look at that. Looks so good. But at the same time, absolutely, I'm going to grab a spoon here, absolutely is not just a soup. It's an ingredient, right? So I spoon that out. This is a thickener, just like cream of mushroom. So if you need something to thicken really quickly, turn to Campbell's broccoli cheese. Really the right stuff. That looks perfect. All right. And I'm just going to whisk my broccoli and cheese into those eggs. You don't need to season them. No salt, right? This is your seasoning. You get really beautiful little florets of broccoli in the soup itself. And then, of course, it's got everything to make it pop and thicken. And just like the strata, it's already thickening up, which I love. All right, this looks great. Cool. So, spring onion tops are ready to go. I've got a little cheese. We're going to add this later on. And then, of course, I've got my Campbell's spiked eggs, which are about to go into this pan. But I want to, before I do that, any questions so far? Because it's going to get real fast. Sherry.
Hey.
Hey.
This is a follow-up to another question. Everyone does Easter classes, and what you can do for Easter. How come we have to do the Passover class and give us ideas?
We have so many Jewish people.
I need some help.
All right. We'll put something on social media, but next year, expect some Passover classes. We'll do it. All right, I'm ready, Sherry. You know I am. Happy Passover.
I can't believe it's been a year since you sucked that last year.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a good this year.
It's been a good year, yes. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Alyssa.
Hi, Chef Joel.
Hi.
I have a question and a request for while we're putting in our request for Ukrainian dishes, just to show some love and support, like pierogies and stuffed cabbage,
Yes.
delicious things like that. Just a suggestion. And
Love.
Also, I didn't have any scallions, but I had onions that were sprouted. So I never know what to do with that. Can they sell for scallions?
First of all, the Ukrainian thing, it's something we've been talking about in-house. We want to do it, so expect to see that sooner than later, and thanks for bringing that up. No, it is not a good substitute for scallions. Actually, when you use that garlic, you're going to notice that that green kind of runs in between the bulbs. And unfortunately, that green kind of causes indigestion, a little bit of gassiness, and also bad breath. So what you want to do is take it out of the actual garlic itself. You can still use the garlic.
Onion. It's a sprouted onion, not so much garlic. But
Yep. So I would get rid of that sprout, compost that, but the garlic is still good.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Alyssa. Good question. A lot of people ask me about the sprouted garlic. It is. It's one of the great mysteries. All right. So at this point, my vegetables are totally soft. Right? I have a rubber spatula, and I'm just kind of moving them around. There's nothing sticking to the bottom, nothing like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this broccoli and cheese spiked egg mixture, and I'm going to go in right over the top, not turning the heat down or up, leaving it on about a 5. And I'm going to just gently use my spatula and mix all my veggies into that kind of custard. And I'm kind of bringing the outside in because the outside cooks faster. And then I'm just going to let it sit and kind of set. And again, if this is on too high, you'll know it's going to be kind of loud. This isn't loud at all. You can almost barely hear this, but I can see little baby bubbles happening, really small little bubbles. So I'm going to let this go for about 3 minutes and just kind of set on one side. And this is one of the first techniques my father-in-law taught me back in the day. He's like, you got to be gentle. You got to be gentle. I was being too vigorous. I was being crazy. This is also when I like to add some cheese. You can go with Parmesan. We've got a handful of cheddar here. You could use provolone, smoked mozzarella. You guys know. All the cheeses. Just a little bit. Again, there's already beautiful cheese in the broccoli and cheese soup, so you don't really need to overdo it with the dairy. But a little bit adds a nice texture contrast at the end. All right. Quick little cleanup. My big New Year's resolution is to be less messy in the kitchen. Everyone thinks, you're a chef, you're probably so clean in the kitchen. Talk to my wife. Talk to her. Okay? It's almost been the end of us. I am not clean in the kitchen, never have been. I've been a mess. I get too excited, to be honest. I do want to just call out while we're waiting for this to set, the Strata is perfuming the kitchen. I mean, literally, you can smell the cream of mushroom immediately. You smell that off the bat, but you get those stuffing spices. You can smell the asparagus kind of cooking down. You can, if you want, just grab a towel, open up. It's not like a souffle or anything. It's not going to pop. And just wiggle it. And it should be pretty firm, which mine looks great. So I'm going to let that go for a little bit longer, but it's getting close. How's everyone else's Stratas look? Thumbs up? Yeah, good. Smells, I just opened that up and I'm like dying. All right. So at this point, you need a spatula. The spatula is to really get in the creases of this frittata and start making sure that we can kind of loosen. I'm not pushing anything to the middle, nothing like that. But I really need to kind of get underneath the frittata, making sure it's not sticking. If it is sticking, which mine is not, but I'll just show you the technique, you can just add a little bit of olive oil around the outside. And it will kind of sink down to the bottom and it will help it not stick. But honestly, you shouldn't need it. It's just a nice, light, simple cook, right? The cheese hasn't melted yet, nothing. Now, I do want everyone to go find a plate or a platter, or in this case, I have a cutting board that's big enough to fit over your pan. So go take a minute, go dig one out from wherever you can. We are going to flip it out onto this, so just keep that in mind. This is why I love live TV. It's always so smart when I decide to flip it all out on camera. And then it goes all over the place. You guys all laugh at me. No, this is going to work great. This is one of those flips that you never, ever have to worry about messing up. It is a genius, genius technique, again, from the father-in-law, the Italian himself. He's so funny because he wasn't born in Italy, but when we go to Italian restaurants, he talks like an Italian, like that. And I'm sitting there with my wife like, oh my gosh, he's such a good dude. All right, any last questions before we start talking about the flippage? No? Guys, easy peasy. One thing I will say, it's been about 25, 30 minutes, so check your strata, like I said. If it's not brown enough on top, but it is set, you can always throw on the broiler real quick and just get a little bit more color. So I'm going to do that. Throw it on broil, literally for like 2-3 minutes. Cora Lee, looks like you got a question. Hi, Cora Lee. Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey. Yeah, what's going on?
At what stage on the stove should this be at before we flip? Like, I'm just a little bit behind you, so I'm worried that I'm not at flipping mode.
I will show you, but it's still going to be a little wet on top, but you should be able to shake the pan and have the whole frittata be able to kind of move in the pan as one. Does that make sense? And I'll show you what it looks like, but mine's still not there yet.
Perfect.
Yeah. Good question. And you guys can see I added my plate on top. It's heat safe, heat resistant. But I did this because the steam will actually kind of push down on the eggs, helping it set a little bit faster. So good little trick you guys can do. Also helps, melt that cheese a little bit. Woo! Speaking of melting cheese, that broiler is doing its job. All right. So let's take a look at this piece, and I think it's such a good question. How do you know if it's time to flip? Well, I can tell you guys right now, I'm getting really close. So what you're looking for is to shake the pan and have the whole mixture kind of stay together. Now, do you see how it's kind of jiggly in the middle? That's fine. That's going to happen. That's going to cook on the other side. But you do want the edges to be pretty firm. So if they're not firm yet, give them another minute or two. I'm going to give mine just another minute or two. You can't rush this step, because when you flip this, it can become a soupy mess very quickly. So you've got to wait until those outsides are nice and firm to the touch. Debbie.
Whoops, are you here?
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Okay, so it looks like we got different recipes than what you got, because our recipe says to put in a fourth cup of milk, but then, was it Lindsay was telling us that you don't put milk in this one?
That's so interesting. Yeah, maybe I got different recipes.
And then, like, our recipe says 6 eggs, but yours says 9 eggs.
So interesting. So obviously the recipe you guys got, I went right on to the Campbell's website. So obviously the recipe you guys get, we're using the milk instead of eggs. Either one works. Milk's going to add a little bit more fluff and height. And if you added those 3 eggs, it would obviously just be a little bit more dense. So totally up to you. I took mine out completely. It's still going to work. But if you want to go with that milk or a couple of extra eggs, it's going to come out just the same. Yeah. Thank you. Good question. All right. I think it's time to take out the strata, and then we're going to flip it, or flip our frittata. Woo! Let me grab this real quick. This looks a little bit too hot to be handling. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord.
Yes.
Come on. You can just smell what comfort feels like. Look at that. Unbelievably golden color. You want to let this rest, right? It's getting crispy around the edges, really golden brown on top. Let that set, right? Don't dig into it. It's like lasagna, right? You dig into it, it's going to be a big, big mess. So just let that set to the side. We'll dig into that in a sec. I'll show you what the middle looks like. But this is the right time to come and flip this frittata. Are you guys ready? Are you cheering me on? Do you want me to be successful, or do you want me to just mess up in front of everyone? Up to you. Yes, thank you for the cheers. So here's how we do it. Grab your plate or your platter, set it on top. Your strong hand, your dominant hand, goes on the actual pan itself. Non-dominant on the platter. Don't have to do a big show about it, just a casual flip. I mean, come on, baby. And then you just slide that puppy back in. And what you're left with is a frittata that is perfectly golden brown on the bottom. You can tuck in the sides. If you've got a little bit of torn pieces, you can just kind of pat those soft. But look at that. So I want a lot of people to do it. This is the time to do it. I'm here to cheer you on. You're not going to mess it up. It's not going to fall on the ground. As long as you have a plate that's as big as the pan, you're going to be golden. So go ahead and do it. I want to see it in the pan, flipped. Show me on camera so I can call you out and tell you how good you did. Take your moment. Have some confidence. You can do this. Oh, gosh. That smells so good. The broccoli cheese. Nice, Elaine. Yes. Jody. Woo! Nikki, that looks awesome. You guys, it's not that hard. Not going to lie. It's not that hard. Frittatas. Pretty simple. So, real quick, I'm just, for garnish, I have that leftover scallions, those little green onions. I like to cut these on the bias, right? So not straight down, but kind of at a 45-degree angle. It makes them look a little bit prettier. You don't have to.
Joel,
We're getting chefy now. Yes, Lindsay.
Steph wants to know if she's doing it the broiler way,
Yeah.
how set should the eggs be?
Great question. Yeah, so the recipe does call for broiler method, which basically means you don't have to flip it. Just stick the entire pan into the oven like this and let it go. The eggs at that stage should just be set on top. So when you jiggle it, it shouldn't jiggle. Very similar to the strata. It should just kind of be one firm, almost like pancake, if that makes sense. Good question. Really good question. And guys, I'm just letting the other side of my frittata cook up here. I can smell the cheese. And I'm going to flip this out onto a plate. It's going to look amazing. But first thing I want to do is tackle this strata. So I'm just going to take half of these scallions, and I'm just going to kind of, from up high, right over the top. And what a beautiful, like I said, Easter brunch. I do want to dig into this real quick and just show you guys what the middle looks like. Yes? This guy? Yeah. Let me lift it up. People wanted to take pictures of it. No problem. It is super hot, but we're going to do it. Gorge. Oh, it smells outrageous. So now that it's set a little bit, you can go ahead and kind of dig in. And you literally can spoon out. Hopefully I can show you guys what this looks like, but it's almost like a Alfredo in the middle. It is unbelievably luscious, rich, and I'm just kind of showing you the middle here because there's no really polite way to spoon this out. But I'll show you guys a close-up. So you can see top is crispy, middle really creamy with that cream of mushroom really being the base, the ham. It's a 10. It's really good. It's rich without being heavy and really incredibly unctuous. And that is thanks to Campbell's cream of mushroom. The asparagus is still crunchy in a good way. It's not overly cooked, soft asparagus. Stunning. All right, frittata time. I take my plate, then I'm going to plate it on. Over the top. Same confidence. Woo! That is a proper frittata. Again, You guys can go with some more scallions right over the top, maybe some sour cream, a little bit more cheese if you want. Fluffy, cooked right. You can do it on the stove, in the stovetop. 2 egg dishes, very similar, but at the same time extremely different. How they're plated, how they're presented, what they're good for. You've got your strata, you've got your frittata, one with obviously the broccoli and cheese soup from Campbell's, really good in that frittata, light, thickens it, adds so much beautiful body. And then the other, the cream of mushroom, it's a great substitute for bechamel. I think the key is not to look at these as just soups or as meals, but as ingredients, which I absolutely love. And again, for more inspiration, you need to head to Campbell's website, check out the recipes. And if you want to shop the recipes, meaning you're inspired, you want to make these for Easter coming up, you can do that on relish.com. Check out relish.com. They're a huge partner of ours. We love them. They make getting food on the table that much easier in so many different ways, and one of them is they make recipes shoppable. So head to relish.com for the recipes, and for inspiration, head to Campbell's. Any last questions before I dig into this frittata here? Just got to give a little bite here on the edge. The zucchinis are perfectly caramelized.
Question about heating it back up.
Yeah.
Warming it back up with the dough.
Yeah. So, so different. A lot of similarities, but so different. This, the frittata, is so light, it's almost like melts on your mouth. And the strata is a little bit more, chewy and a little bit more robust. I love them both. But the question is, how do you reheat them both? So at this stage, let's say you wanted to eat this on Saturday or you have people coming over. Let it cool. For the frittata, wrap it up in plastic wrap. Put it in the fridge. Good for 3 days in the fridge, 3 months in the freezer. Same exact with the strata. So let it cool, wrap it up, 3 days in the fridge, and about, a little bit longer, 3 months in the freezer. What else? Lena, and then Jonathan. Ah, that's okay. Did it come out okay? Did it come out okay? Like, was it still okay? Did you save it? Let's see it. Knowing you, Lena, it's okay. Yeah, dude, that's okay. Guys, part of... Yes, no, keep cooking it. That's totally normal. It looks great. You can hide it with a little bit of scallions. It looks killer. No big deal. But I think you went a little early. You just need to make sure that one side is set just a little bit more. That's all it is. The other side you want to cook until the full thing is set, I'd say about 3 to 4 minutes. And at that point, you're really just looking to get the whole thing cooked through. And then I like to flip it back out. Good luck, Lena. Yeah. Jonathan.
Hi, Chef Joel.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. I was wondering what kind of meat you would recommend adding to the frittata.
Ooh. I'm a big pancetta guy. I'm calling it out right now. Pancetta is like a rolled Italian bacon. If you guys haven't had it, it's got some funk to it that I think is so delicious. But frittata is a blank slate, Jonathan. So anything works. Some crumbled sausage, chicken sausages would be beautiful in there. Absolutely no meat in the world would be great in there. So it's just yours to play with. But thanks for asking, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Yeah, chorizo is also really good. You guys, we are getting close to time. Again, I want to call out our amazing partners, RelishLIVE, Relish. Go to them, shop your recipes, get some amazing meal plans, and Campbell's. Campbell's is what really differentiates these dishes. And when you think about cooking in general, whether it's a sauce, a marinade, a braise, it doesn't matter. By using Campbell's products, you're really able to take kind of something ordinary and really make it extraordinary. So check out Campbell's for more inspiration. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in the Relish Kitchen, and we will catch you next time. Thanks, everybody. Take care, and happy holidays this weekend. I know a lot of people are celebrating.